What's good, YouTubers and YouTubettes? This is JBsports back again with another one. LA Clippers, aka Clip City, Chip City, falls to the Phoenix Suns 130-103. First time in the playoffs that they were blown out, dominated. As the Phoenix Suns could not miss, man. Probably their best offensive performance since game one, as they was able to defeat the LA Clippers 130-103. Led by a virtuoso performance by soon-to-be Hall of Fame point guard. Top 5 on my list of all-time point guards. Chris Paul, a.k.a. CP3, as he went for 41 points and had a magnificent performance. You know, this was obviously by far his best performance of the series with the Clippers. He struggled coming back from COVID-19. You know, a lot of people were saying that he needed to be benched in favor of backup point guard Cameron Payne. But Monty Williams knew better than that. He knew where his bread was buttered. He knew who was the main reason why they had made it to that point, who finished top 5 in MVP, and that was Chris Paul. He did not waver in his belief in Chris Paul, and he kept playing him the minutes that he played him, believing that he would snap out of it, knowing that he was the team leader. He was the engine that made that car go, and that was a belief that paid off in Game 6 of the Western Conference Finals. Now, the Clippers, man, they had problems, man. This was a game that they really missed Zubac. You know, he was able to hold his own with Aiden, man. They had no answer for Aiden in that first half. Aiden dominated, man. They made it a focal point to get him the ball inside, and he was able to impose his size, athleticism, and strength and make plays and dominate the paint for the Phoenix Suns. Now, they tried to put Boogie Cousins in there, but Monty Williams made adjustments from Game 5 to Game 6 when Boogie Cousins, I said that in the video, that Boogie Cousins basically manhandled Sarich. Sarich is too small. To me, I'm going to use a boxing term, he's a blown up center. He's really a power forward masquerading as a center. And he's just too little to handle a big guy like DeMarcus Cousins. But what they did was they put DeMarcus Cousins in a pick and roll, and they spaced the floor, and they had Sarich at the top of the key behind the three-point line, but they know DeMarcus Cousins is going to sag into the paint pretty much every time on the pick and roll, and they was able to get a wide open shots for Sarich. He made 2 consecutive top of the key 3-point shots, and that kind of turned the tide, man. And it was basically like, okay, Boogie, you gonna keep Boogie Cousins out here? We're gonna put him in the pick and roll every time, get him out here on Chris Paul, and Chris Paul gonna dance with him. And that's exactly what happened. So that made Tyronn Lue have to go small, so he went and played Batum at times. He played Morris Sr. He started off with Morris Sr. Morris Sr. didn't come out as high as he was in that last game, but he did find his groove in the second half, man. But it was just a little bit too little, too late, man. Just too much offense. The Clippers never got a handle on them on the defensive end of the court, and they made them pay, man. As Booker had 22, but it was a quiet 22. Aiden had a big first quarter, real big first quarter. After that, it was basically the Chris Paul show, man. When the LA Clippers were able to close the lead to 7 points, I think Chris Paul ended up scoring, 27 of their last 35 points, or something close to that. Like I said, it was the Chris Paul show, and he took over the game, and they were able to win, and it'll be the first appearance in the NBA Finals since the Charles Barkley era. It'll be Chris Paul's first performance in the NBA Finals, and kudos to him and Monty Williams and the whole Phoenix Suns team for making it this far. They've had a great season, and we'll see what happens and see what transpires in the finals. Now, as far as the aftermath goes for the LA Clippers, they got some tough decisions to make, in my opinion, man. I think, I'm going to say something that's controversial. I think Kawhi Leonard or Paul George must go. I never was in love with the fit. Even though they won games, they've had good regular season, they ain't made the ultimate goal, and that is winning the NBA championship. And that's what you brought to Kawhi Leonard from Toronto in there to do. And that's what you traded for Paul George from the Oklahoma City Thunder to do. And to me, those two guys are redundant. They're similar players. They play a different style of play, but they're similar players. They're both pretty much small forwards. They're both guys that can score the ball, but they're not facilitators. It's not their strength to set guys up. And I think you need a guy that's more of a facilitator to play alongside of those guys. Those guys are redundant, in my opinion. They play too similar. That's why it's like when they play together, it's like, okay, Paul George sees lost his time. He's like, okay, it's Kawhi time. Kawhi's going to take over. He's going to do his thing. And I'm sitting out here not in no rhythm. And then when you get the ball to me, I'm missing shots. And people blaming me like they call me Pandemic P and this, that, and the third. That's because I'm not in no rhythm. I'm playing off of Kawhi Leonard. He's Batman. I'm Robin. And you got to understand, before Kawhi Leonard won that championship with the Toronto Raptors, I thought Paul George was a better player. He took his team further than Kawhi Leonard. Well, he took his team further as the main guy than what Kawhi Leonard had done up to that point. You know, he took an Indiana Pacers team and took the big three in Miami: Dwayne Wade, LeBron James, and Chris Bosh. He took them to 7 games in the Eastern Conference Finals. Lost 4 games to 3. Kawhi Leonard had never took his team, any team that far where he was the #1 option. Remember, he was on the San Antonio Spurs team, but he was the 4th option at best, behind Duncan, Parker, and Ginobili. So he got a Finals MVP because the defense he did on LeBron James, but he was not the focal point of the San Antonio Spurs offense. So at that point, before he got to Toronto, Paul George had done more as the focal point of his team than Kawhi Leonard, and I thought he was rated high, in my opinion, than Kawhi Leonard. Now, once Kawhi Leonard went to Toronto and won that championship, then obviously he elevated higher than Paul George. But with that being said, those guys are similar players. They're redundant, and I think you're not gonna never win no championship with them 2 guys together because you don't have another. You don't have one guy like the Brooklyn Nets, for example. You got James Harden who can pass the ball. He gets you a lot of assists, and then you got Durant who can score the ball, and you got Kyrie Irving who can score the ball. So that works. But in Kawhi Leonard and Paul George's case, you got both guys that are scorers, both guys that are finishers. They're not guys that's going to set other teammates up. They can do it, but that's not their strength. Now, they could play together if you get another guy in there that's a facilitator, maybe at the point guard position. You got to get somebody better than a Patrick Beverly, or even a Reggie Jackson. You need to get a guy that's a real pure point guard, like a John Stockton type, like a Mark Jackson type, Isaiah Thomas type. And those guys are hard to come by these days. You need a pure point guard that can set people up. It's going to be willing to score 20 points and have 18 assists like James Harden doing with Durant and Kyrie Irving. If you get that type of player, then it could work. But if you can't get that type of player, I think it's in the Los Angeles Clippers' best interest to trade one of those guys. You got Paul George under contract. If you decide to bring Kawhi Leonard back, you need to field trade offers to trade Paul George. Or you can just let Kawhi Leonard leave. He might want to leave anyway. If he leave, that might be the best thing for the Clippers. He leave and go somewhere else, go to Miami or Golden State or go to another team. Then you'll add a piece to the team that you got that gave Phoenix Suns all they can handle in the Western Conference Final without Kawhi Leonard. You get a piece, preferably a playmaking point guard, to go with Paul George. Then you got a chance to make some noise again in the Western Conference. That'll be my advice to the Los Angeles Clippers front office. This is just a short video, short synopsis on the Western Conference Finals and the aftermath of what's in store and what's, I think, the best route to go with for the Los Angeles Clippers going into next season. Hit the like button if you like the content of this video and subscribe to JB Sports, the man, the myth, the legend, and I holla.